Hello there, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the podcast. We've been away for a bit, for a number of reasons, but don't worry, we are now back. And Duncan has actually got some new headphones and a new mic as well, which is fantastic. He's completely tooled up now and ready for the podcast. So, without further ado, what subject did you pick from? What story did you pick from today's Watson's Daily?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off by going with, I've obviously got all the gear and no idea, as people will find out by the time I finish talking for a few minutes. But I've picked the story about Tron, partly because Tron is just a cool word to say, and partly because part of the story involves me being able to talk about bananas duct taped to walls, which is always fun. So this story is from the FT, and it's about Tron, who are a crypto group, if people haven't heard of them, going public. So I think that in itself is interesting on a couple of fronts. Obviously, we're seeing an ongoing kind of momentum of crypto getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the crypto group going public, I think, is another sign. Obviously, that momentum is continuing, and we're seeing an increased number of flotations as well, which I think is also a really interesting trend to look at. So Tron themselves, like I said, they're a crypto group, they're a digital asset platform. They're going public via a reverse merger with SRM Entertainment, who are already NASDAQ listed. So that new venture is going to buy and hold the Tron token and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So I find this really interesting for the reason of who's involved with this.
Yeah.
So the owner of the company is a billionaire called Justin Sun, who people may or may not have heard of. A few interesting things about him. One, he's worth something like $8.5 billion, and he's a month younger than me, which makes me a little bit sick. Secondly, three of his companies, including Tron, were charged by the SEC a couple of years ago over allegations they sold unregistered securities, manipulated the market, and other, not generally good things to do as a company. And thirdly, if anyone remembers that story last year where a very, very rich person bought a banana that was duct taped to a wall at an auction and then proceeded to peel the banana off the wall, peel the banana and eat it, that was Justin Sun. So yeah, he bought a banana for $6.2 million last year and then proceeded to eat it as part of the show he was putting on. So he can afford to spend $6.2 million on a banana, which I think is quite impressive. Like I said, he was being investigated. Three of his companies being investigated. Now the probes into him have been paused, and in a completely separate and totally unrelated bit of news, it's rumored that Eric Trump is likely to take on a role within this new company. So I'm not saying those two things are related. But yeah. So obviously that's what I really find this interesting. Is obviously it's been flagged. He's been flagged. His company's been flagged. They're being investigated. They're not anymore. And there's this big new company that's coming out of it, which one of the Trumps is going to be involved in. And it's a massive crypto company going public. And I think all of that makes this really, really interesting. For the record, shares in SRM Entertainment boomed up to like 647% in trading yesterday after this news. So it's going to be a massive deal. Absolutely massive deal. Maybe having a Trump involved is going to give him a little bit of, I don't know, immunity leeway on some of these probes. That could be just me speculating. But I think it's really interesting, as I said, to see that continued momentum of crypto and another big kind of digital asset company floating. I think is really interesting. So yeah, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just full of holes.
Stories.
It's really, it just doesn't. I mean, I always try to be neutral on stuff, although it might not sound it. I do genuinely try to be neutral, but it just sounds so dodgy. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. It just sounds so dodgy. So you've got this guy, flamboyant guy who his companies have been investigated by the SEC. That seems to go away at just the time when, Trump's son gets involved, and which may well be a coincidence. And it comes at a time when the Trumps generally, are getting hugely involved in crypto. We saw those stable coins, the Melania coin, the Trump coin, and TMGT is also looking to get money to build up a Bitcoin fund, and we've seen a lot. There seem to be a lot of companies, particularly it feels like crypto companies, being very keen to come to market, jump on the bandwagon, and so they're doing this. Now, I would also suggest that, I do think that this could be kind of dangerous, because the other thing as well is that, I think that if you were to pick two controversial things, like phenomena that have been happening in the financial world in the last few years, one of them would be crypto, because of the huge swings that it's taken. But also, I would say, the SPAC vehicles. I mean, these, essentially what they are is they get a load of money usually from big investors. They say to the investors, right, we're going to buy something that sky's the limit. They're going to grow really quickly. Not going to get you any of this kind of 5-10% malarkey. We're talking about many hundreds of percent. So we're going to go shopping. So give us your money. They give them the money. They go shop. They buy a company that they think is going to go bananas. Sorry, I just thought. And then then they buy it, and then it is a reverse. So this company was smaller and doesn't have much money, but has a lot of promise and possibly BS in there as well. And they then, this is a reverse takeover. So this company that needs the money backs into the SPAC, and then that SPAC is already listed. So essentially, it's listing. So it's essentially the same thing. That was really popular in the sort of early 2020s. And the thing is that companies wanted it because they wanted money. They wanted access to money. Banks weren't lending because they were saying, look, COVID, or we don't want to go too overboard in lending. So banks weren't lending. You had private equity firms could be buying, and they did. But also you could go to market. But the problem with going to market is you actually have to be quite a good business, because there are rules to go for flotation. You've got to have a certain amount of profits and things like that. There's all sorts of different rules. You have to jump through all sorts of hoops to get to market, and then you have to pay. So you have to pay the stock exchange as well. So there's a lot of obligations that go with it, and it takes you have to take a long run up to actually do this. Or you could have the same prestige in much less time by doing a SPAC-backed IPO and backing yourself into a SPAC. Now, I would suggest that in a reasonable number of cases, the reason why companies did this was because they're not actually ready to do a proper flotation. Yeah. They're at the stage where they've got the idea, potentially they've got the interest, but they don't necessarily have the orders and things to back it all up. So it is a big risk. So I think that, fast forwarding to now, crypto in a SPAC-backed IPO is kind of two, and then overlaid with the cherry on top of Trump's son being involved in it. It's just like layers of dodginess it's a trifle of dodginess, with Trump being the cherry on the top of the trifle. And I just feel that it does not feel right. It doesn't feel like this should be able to happen. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think even if the speculation I just made about Trump's son getting involved and the probes going away at the same time, if that was complete coincidence and not related, I think you're right. I think in most places in the world, if the essentially ruling family
in the developed world,
in the developed world, most places, because I would say the Trump family aren't far from being a ruling family currently in America. If anyone in the ruling family was that heavily involved in the business, people would be going, hands would be up in the air, people going, this needs to be investigated, this shouldn't be allowed. And I think even if this is all completely above board, which it might be, I'm not saying it's not, there should be something there, I think, that stops someone with that much political power having that much business power at the same time. And I think, like you said, for that reason alone makes it feel dodgy. Because even if, like I said, even if this is completely above board, there is the ability there for it not to be. And I think, yeah, like you said, that just makes it feel dodgy, even if it isn't. But I mean, it's great for Justin Sun, isn't it? Because all the probes have gone away.
Yeah.
So he could be. I mean, like I said, he's already sickeningly rich, but could be a lot richer at some point quite soon. So it's great news for him. But like I said, it just because of the way those relationships work between kind of the president and the public, and then and business, it just like I say, it just feels dodgy to me.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I kind of wonder. I mean, this is going slightly off piste, but it feels to me like Trump is almost trying to make a parallel universe in the sense that he's got his own methods, his method of communication with Truth Social. And in the past, it was X. Maybe that'll come back again as well. But he has got his platform that he can speak to his people. So that's a very important channel, very important thing. He is building, he's wanted to build a Bitcoin, store or whatever. He basically wants to buy loads of Bitcoin, and he's also now, we saw there's another story in today's Oxford Daily about how he's launching his own phone, like it's a gold coloured phone, not a gold phone, but a gold coloured phone, and he'll have his own network, which is not technically his own network in the sense that it is a network that's already existing, but he, buying on top of it.
It's the same way that kind of Tesco Mobile and Gift
exactly.
Over here, piggyback off an existing network and give your own name. Yeah.
And so he's kind of getting his own channels, and it makes me wonder, and I may well be way off base here, right? And maybe way off base, but what about if he tried to make his supporters rich by, say, I don't know, he could say, right, everyone, whoever buys, let's just choose Trump coin, right? So let's all get rich together. I know how we'll do it. Buy Trump coin, and if you do that, I am going to pick 20 random people, and I'll give them each $1 million for supporting us, much in the way as Elon Musk gave out checks in the election. Yeah. And what that would do, rather than what he's done before, which is top 20 investors get to have lunch with me at the White House, if he says 20 people random, I mean, how honestly random they are, I don't know, but like you could
carefully selected random people.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Some are more random than others, and if he did that, he could get loads of people buying all at the same time. So he's basically talking his own book. They all rise because they all want the million bucks. He then says, then when it gets, when it really gets to I don't know, some sort of deadline, everyone sells. He'll obviously sell first, making sure that he makes loads of money first. Others should probably make money as well, and then he becomes his self-fulfilling prophecy. he sort of says, well, look, I'm going to make you rich. Buy this now. Because he sort of said that last, didn't he? Like a few months ago, he said, now is a great time to buy the US. Now, at that point, it wasn't, the markets were right down. And people said afterwards, when the markets went up, that he knew something, and it was, it was all a bit dodgy, but that managed to get swept under the carpet. But, could he not do that? No one seems to be stopping him. There won't be anyone who can really stop him. Lawyers aren't going to, because they're too scared. The judiciary seems to be very highly either picked by him or his party, or very much leaning towards him. It does not feel. You sort of think, could you imagine this happening here? I cannot think of a Keir Starmer gold phone, or Starmer coin, or building a Bitcoin funds using Starmer asset management. I mean, I can't imagine it happening. I really can't, and that's what makes it feel wrong to me. So
it's weird, isn't it? Because you think about, if you go back only a couple of years to COVID times, there was absolute uproar when it was thought that friends of the current party were benefiting from this contract. Absolute uproar. Can you imagine it was the leader of the party, like the prime minister? It just wouldn't happen. There'd be riots. Well, maybe slightly more dignified than that, but they wouldn't. It wouldn't last in power if that happened. The person in charge would no longer be in charge.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean this in the sense of, well, of course we don't do that over here. I mean, in terms of the UK being superior in some way, it's not. It's just, it's more of a case of, there are rules and structures in place to make sure that people in power do not abuse that power.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that this is an example of that potential abuse of power. But anyway,
that kind of investment scenario you just concocted would almost like guarantee loyalty as well, wouldn't it? Because your money is inherently tied into that person being successful. You can't now go and vote against him, can you? Because if his money goes down, your investment plummets.
Exactly.
And it's so close to market manipulation without being it, because he hasn't taken that final step.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? He's literally, if he can make people richer, like if you are a voter and you've made, let's say you put $1,000 in or something, and you get a few thousand back, you'll maybe go for a holiday, right? And you'll say, hey kids, we went on that holiday because of Donald, because of Uncle Donald. That's what happens. And like, you can't really argue against it.
No.
Because it's what he did. And so when it comes to polling time, he'll say, hey everyone, remember when I, gave you a few quid? Well, now's the time to pay me back and vote me in again. So it's, feels weird to me. But
Anyway.
Anyway,
so that's one story for today's Watson's Daily. What was your favourite, Peter?
Yeah, so I thought I'd, keeping it light, because, the reason why I've avoided talking about, wars, just because I don't want this podcast to be a real downer. Right. So anyway, I thought I'd choose WhatsApp, so the idea is WhatsApp said that they're going to be using adverts. Lots of uproar. I think why? Because it's not a charity. He bought it for whatever it was, $16 billion or something over 10 years ago, whatever it was. The world is different. I think, the guy that founded it said there will never be adverts. We will never do this, etc. But that's then, this is now. We've got, Spotify, obviously you can have a low cost, whatever, but you have adverts, free, and you have adverts. YouTube adverts, Facebook adverts, all these things. We're used to having.
It goes on and on and on.
We are used to it now, and I think that it's. it's inevitable because they're not charities, and they also, if they've built up a reasonable following, which I would argue that WhatsApp has, then I would suggest that they have to monetize it in some way, and advertising is the obvious way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so many people, of these keyboard warriors going on, going, "Oh, I'm going to leave. Oh, well, you've lost one user," and all this kind of stuff. You think, well, what is your, no one cares. The thing is,
let's just clarify. They have 3 billion monthly users worldwide.
Exactly. Just these, it's such a load of rubbish. So no one cares, and I think that you'll just come back to the reality of the fact that if you say to someone, "I'll WhatsApp you," it's because it's so ubiquitous. People have it on their phone, so that's what you're going to do. Do you really want to, download Telegram and Signal and all these other things as well? You might do, but realistically, I think you're going to stick to what you've got because it's just a hassle, And I wonder whether this has got anything to do with. It feels to me like very recently there's been, for me anyway, a noticeable uptick in adverts for WhatsApp and emphasizing that it's end-to-end encryption, so yeah.
See, that was the point I was going to make. Actually, like you said, the world has changed so dramatically since WhatsApp was purchased. And I would say the couple of main areas that it's developed in is one, AI, and B, like cyber criminals are getting more and more clever. So if you want a messaging system that's end-to-end encrypted and as secure as it can be, you can't expect a company to provide that for free.
No.
So if you want that higher level of security and that higher level of encryption that you get from WhatsApp and pretty much exclusively from WhatsApp at the moment, why would you not pay for it? It's not going to, or like you said, or watch adverts. I can totally see there being a WhatsApp premium that, like YouTube have done, like Spotify have done, that negates that at some point. But like I said, it makes absolute sense that they have to get money somewhere because they're having to develop the app so frequently to keep ahead of the hackers and keep ahead of other things. That actually, I think it'd be totally unreasonable to expect that to continue being free when everything else, pretty much now on your phone, you pay for. And most other apps you pay for in some way. Or you sit and watch adverts.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think a lot of people complain, but I don't think any of them are going to stop using it. They'll just do what you do with every other app. You turn it on, watch the advert for 30 seconds and continue with what you were going to do.
Exactly. I mean, I looked today and, just look on my WhatsApp and apparently it's on... where is it? The updates tab. So if you go to the bottom, if you're on your phone, you go to the bottom and there's, from the right to the left, there's settings, chats, communities, calls, and then there's this updates thing. And apparently it's on the updates thing. Now, I have to say I can't see it at the moment, but it's there. So it's kind of hidden at the moment. I have no doubt that they're going to then put it all over the place. But, I think that a lot of us have become immune to advertising to an extent. I mean, I was saying to you earlier that the only adverts really that get through to me are funny ones. I mean, Dr. Squatch is a good example, and I would say that everything else, especially I hate to say it, but the big corporate kind of management consultancy type adverts where you're watching and they're usually very, look very expensive, but you think at the end you're still left none the wiser as to what this company does because they usually make some big statement at the end. And, one of them I was saying to you about was this one I've seen loads on the FT, because obviously I read the FT all the time. And it's Keanu Reeves in some sort of futuristic fighting laser stuff going on all around him. That's all I remember. I remember him. I do not remember, for the life of me, so many times I've seen that advert, I do not remember who who that's advertising, or even what it is, because all I see is him fighting off lasers and stuff. What's that got to do with anything? So, so I think that we become numb to it. I think, we maybe more numb to it than we have been in the past, perhaps, because we're now so used to seeing it all the time.
Yeah, and like I say, it's part of an everyday life, isn't it? And I think more so than ever, it's part of everyday online life. You can't expect to consume adverts or pay to not consume them before you get your content. I think that's kind of a standard thing now.
Yeah.
And I think, like we said, it's a necessary thing for these companies to keep developing. And like I said, I think your first statement on this is probably the best sum up of this. And they're a business; they're not a charity.
Yeah.
And I think to continue expecting them to act like a charity would just be naive, bordering on idiotic, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. So there we go. I mean, I think we'll sort of leave it there. I mean, obviously I'll WhatsApp you, about this later on, and if it takes me a little time, it's because I've been watching the adverts.
Yeah,
you know how absorbing that can be.
I've just discovered on that updates tab on WhatsApp, you can follow channels about things that might be interesting to you. I didn't even know that was there, so I've just found a new functionality on WhatsApp. That's good.
There we go.
Although,
there we go.
Bizarrely, the two it's suggesting Lad Bible, Sky Sports, and 2 different Jellycat channels, which is odd.
Nice.
I've never bought a Jellycat in my life, but apparently they think I might like it. So
nice. Who knows? Maybe it knows you better than you know yourself.
Maybe I need to start filling my house with little plushy things.
Yeah, nice.
That's what a Jellycat is. It's one of those little soft, squishy, plushy things, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Could well be. I have no idea, but I know I've heard about these things. But yeah,
those little teddy things in shapes of like fried eggs and avocados and things like that. I think they're Jellycats. But apparently, I would like following that channel, so I might give it a follow and see.
Yeah, I think it's well worth it. Yeah. So yeah. But anyway, thank you very much for your thoughts today.
Thanks for having me.
Very interesting. I mean, to be honest, when we first came on it, I was thinking, when we did the initial chat before this, I was thinking when we talked about the subjects we were going to talk about, I thought, it's kind of a bit lightweight. It's not really we're not really going to be able to talk that much. But actually, they bring in there's so many different aspects to the stories that are quite interesting. So anyway, but there you go. Thank you very much, Duncan. Thank you very much for listeners for listening, watchers for watching. If you want more of this stuff on a daily basis, please subscribe to Watson's Daily. It's not very much money, and it will save you a ton of time and probably a ton of money as well. So on that note, have a lovely day, and we'll be back again very soon. So many thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye.